Ariana, just give me the thumbs up once you're ready. Ariana is ready, and I'm assuming everyone else is. So I'm going to call the council meeting for October 22nd to order, and no one is excused. And we'll look at the minutes for the approval of the minutes from October the 8th. Kelly? Kelly moves. Seeing no other hands up, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Call for post-agenda items. Wayne?
I'd like to have in-camera personnel.
Okay. Any other agenda items, post-agenda items? All right, a motion for the adoption of the agenda. Anne Marie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. This is the time in our meeting where we just give a little bit of time in case there is someone who has a question for us from the public. So we won't proceed for a minute, but what I will perhaps sort out with you is that we will start with item 10.2, the development permit, because that is a scheduled time for delegation at 10:30, and that way the folks that are here will not have to wait any longer, and then we'll move back to bylaws, and by then possibly we'll be at our 11 o'clock delegation time with RCMP. So Todd, you're our moderator today.
Yes, ma'am.
So do you see anybody that's trying to communicate with us?
No, not so far. We, I believe this is a record for the live stream. We have 12 people viewing in the interwebs, so that's exciting news. But no questions have come forward for us.
All right. Well, of course, you know, if there's any that ever come along, we'll deal with them eventually. But so we'll maybe move on to our 10:30 item then, which is item 10.2. And that is a development permit for the Hamlet of Patricia.
Development permit 2020067 is for a change in use of existing structures on the parcel to be used as a private school and school-related accessory building. The parcel was rezoned from Hamlet residential to direct control to allow for the private school and a religious assembly. The use of a school on the parcel is a permitted use. However, the development officer may refer any development permit application to council for a decision, which is what we have done. The school will accommodate grades 1 to 10 and include approximately 16 students and 3 teachers. The applicant noted that they would like to accept more students in the next few years to a maximum of 50 students. There are approximately 5 vehicles accessing the parcel for pickup and drop-off of students. The parking area on the east side of the school will allow space for 12 vehicles as well as a large open field should they have functions at the school. The applicants are requesting to have their access remain from the east, as an access road is already established on the east side of the property. The applicant feels it would be less disruptive to neighboring landowners if access remains as is. An access easement would be required between the applicant and the County of Newell to cross over the 2 parcels from Willow Street to the subject parcel. Comments from circulations, there was no issues or concerns from staff. We did have one response from an adjacent landowner, which is included in your package. There was no response for the Patricia Advisory Committee. I provided two options. Option one is for an approval of the application with access from Township Road 203. The second option is for approval of the change in use, utilizing the existing access from the east and adding the condition that the applicant obtain an access easement, and also the condition that the applicant get dust abatement from Willow Street to Township Road 203. That's it.
Thank you. Questions, Council? Tracy?
My question just is, right now, is this a permit just for the school, or are we also proving that it's the school and religious assembly? Because it's kind of throughout our document, it mentions a religious assembly at some point, but then at the very bottom, it is talking just about a school. So if I could get clarification on that, because I'm not sure if that's two separate items or not. And around that, my other question would be is if it was approval for the school, then does that, I guess we've already covered it though. I was questioning about the traffic flow, but if we're looking at the possibility of dust abatement and the access where it is, I'm good with that. But if we get clarification on the school and religious assembly is, please. I'm babbling.
At this time, they are only applying for the school.
So that means that if a religious assembly is to happen, another application has to occur then?
That is correct.
Other questions? Anne-Marie?
My question is about B, the dust abatement. There might be 5-6 vehicles coming off the pavement. They have less than half a mile to get to their property. We have never required dust abatement inside a hamlet before, so I'm a little bit surprised by this one.
We can remove that condition.
Brian?
I was reading the letter from the ratepayer on this, and I guess I looked through it, and I don't have the answers or the to any of the questions, I guess, but the one that jumped out at me from the concern was about the safety measures around the pond. So could either staff or our applicant, I assuming our applicant's there, respond to that if he's aware of that particular concern?
Jeff?
I'll take a small stab at this one, and maybe Lane could help fill in as well. So the concerned ratepayer does currently, I believe, and Lane can correct me if I'm wrong, have a lease to graze animals inside the fence compound, south of the location, and also south of the water distribution center in Patricia Fire Hall. Now this compound is a chain link fenced compound. I believe it's supposed to be locked up and gated with barbed wire around the top of the fence. Now, we're absolutely concerned with safety and liability of the pond and the pond surroundings. We are concerned, if there is or isn't a school there, and any child, adult, animal could wander in there onto our property, and we could have a huge catastrophe. So to say that if the safety is a concern right now, I think it's been identified. We should get out there and do some inspections and have a look at what the current situation is as of right now, and have a look, because like I say, safety and liability at this site is a big thing, not only because the proposed school here. So I'm not sure I see an issue with regard to the school and the safety around this pond, more so the safety around this pond and ensuring that we're keeping people out that aren't supposed to be in there.
Clarence.
I'm not too sure this really has something to do with this particular development or not, but when I look at the pictures, the map and stuff, you know, and knowing how things develop over time in a small hamlet, it doesn't look like it's even close to being totally on municipal property. Is that a concern? You know, where are the legal boundaries? Are the red lines correct in our picture, or what's going on? The second part of it is how much, and I don't know what's happening in Patricia, but I do know that a lot of our calcium get dust abatement in the hamlet of Rolling Hills, and I would just probably the same way. Is there additional cost to the county that because we would be doing more dust abatement now or less, and are we aware of that, or are we already doing it there? Is my question, I guess. A couple questions there. I could have some clarification.
I'm gonna let Jeff handle that.
Yeah, so you know, we talked about this internally, and first off, as far as the property lines are there, on the air photo, it appears to me that the property lines are identified by the dotted yellowish lines there, and they are accurate. So the pond would be contained on that parcel to the south of the school location. As for the dust abatement, yes, we certainly do some dust abatement in Rolling Hills. We do not currently provide dust suppressant inside the hamlet of Patricia. You know, we talked about this as a group and as administration a little bit, and previously concerns have been with regards to schools and transportation to and from of a concern of dust and nuisance to neighbors. So, you know, administration put that condition in there based on the most recent land use bylaw amendment, where we say schools should be located off of hard surfaced roads. So that's why that condition was put in there for council's consideration.
Just going back to the dust abatement, like in my mind, like we're looking at the school starting with about 16 students and 3 teachers. Also, there are residents that live in the hamlet of Patricia. The students probably would be walking there. So the traffic flow in my mind is very small. We don't enforce it for other things. I just think we're going into winter where dust isn't going to be a problem. If this is a really big concern, could we not monitor it in the spring and see? Like, I think, I just don't think this should be a part of this development. I think that, you know, the roads in Patricia, from what I've seen, they're not like they're sand, dirt roads, you know, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of dust with the traffic flow that they're proposing to start with.
Wayne?
As far as this dust abatement, could we kind of leave it out now? And if the school gets bigger and the problem gets to be bigger, can council address it later and put stipulations in that in the future, if it becomes a problem, then dust abatement will have to be part of the solution?
I can't see why not.
Yeah, I think we could definitely attach a condition to the development permit like that, or, if the school was to expand and a new development permit was needed to be applied for, if a religious assembly came in, another development permit came through, that's definitely something we could look at that time. Like I say, the only reason this condition was included in there was for council's consideration based on previous discussions with school applications, and like I say, the most recent land use bylaw amendment for school uses. So it's totally at the discretion of council as to how they want to implement that.
Kelly?
My experience or from being on council around these schools, I think fencing is very important. Even if it's only a 4-foot fence, but a defined borderline for these students to advance during recess time, I think it's part of the School Act as well. So I would hope that is that what you're looking at, Jeff?
I would just point out our land use bylaw because I do not believe that we enforce anything particularly, and maybe Chandelier Maria can correct me, but I don't believe we enforce the need for a fence around a school at all. I mean, I do agree that most schools' yards are fenced in, as opposed to the frontage of the school, but we don't have anything in our land use bylaw that dictates the necessity to fence in the school grounds. And maybe, like I say, Chandelier Maria can jump in there and maybe off base on that.
No, you're correct in saying that, Jeff.
Other questions? Anne-Marie?
I'm ready to make the motion. It would be option 2, that they keep the existing access from the east. And I would like to take B out, the dust abatement, because we can deal with that if it ever becomes a problem.
All right. Everyone clear on what that motion is? Option 2 without item B. Further discussion on that motion? All in favor of that motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. All right. We'll move back to item 7.1. Thank you, Mr. Torkelson, for being present. Do you have anything else you wanted to add, or?
No, not really. I think that answered a lot of our questions. And, as far as, like I said before, we're very open to, on the dust abatement, if it does become an issue, like I know, on your county roads in front of your yards, that's up to us. And we're open to that. That's the reason it's in there, is just to come up in the discussion. So, and also there's one thing I was going to say on the fencing. It is fenced the whole way around except on the east side. So, and that we plan to deal with, down the roadways, and hopefully the not too distant future. So, and as far as also the safety issue around the dugouts, that's a high concern for us too. So, we'll we can definitely deal with that. I don't see that being an issue because of the fence that's there now. It's like Jeff said, it's very adequate at this point. So, but yeah, no, I just want to thank everyone for their help, and yeah, that's kind of all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up to answer questions too. Thank you. All right, we'll move on back to item 7.1, which is a road closure and lease of Southwest 15, 17, 16 for second and third reading. And staff, take it away.
Okay. Hello. Like Madam Marie said, this is the road closure bylaw 1989-20. The land is located in Division 4. It's approximately 10 kilometers east of Bow City. Parcels on all sides of the road allowance are in the agricultural land use district. The applicant would like to close and lease this road allowance to facilitate the current farming irrigation operation. This bylaw has received the following approvals. Approval to proceed on March 5th, 2020. Public hearing and first reading on May 21st. And we received Alberta Transportation approval on October 2nd, 2020. If second and third reading is given by council, a lease agreement as per the County of Newell policy will be finalized. We recommend that second and third reading be given to road closure bylaw 1989-20 for the road closure and lease of those portions of road allowance lying directly south of the southwest of 15, 17, 16.
All right, any questions? If not, motion for second reading. Ellen moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for third reading, QB moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And so that takes us on to item 7.2, road closure and lease 24-2014 for second and third readings. Maria?
Thank you. So the purpose of this application is to close the road allowance along the westerly boundary of the west half of 2014, again to facilitate the current irrigation farming operation. The lands are in Division 8, approximately 4 kilometers west of the hamlet of Millicent and 5 kilometers east of the village of Dutchess. All of the lands in the surrounding area are in the agricultural land use district. The applicant has installed 3 pivots that are now irrigating the road allowance as part of the irrigation farming operation. This bylaw has received the following approvals. Approval to proceed on March 19th, 2020. Public hearing and first reading on May 21st, and Alberta Transportation approval on October 2nd. What if second and third reading is given by council, then a lease agreement will be put in place as per the county policy. It is recommended that second and third reading be given to bylaw 1990-20 for the road closure and lease.
Questions? Kelly?
Motion to approve second reading.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And for third reading, Brian moves. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is also carried. We will now hop over to item 10.1, administrative business. It's a subdivision extension request.
Thank you. This is a subdivision extension request for subdivision application 2020-0-011. This is lands that are legally known as the northwest of 1615, west of the 4th Meridian. The original subdivision was approved on May 23rd, 2019 by MPC. The applicant is requesting an extension for additional time to obtain the necessary consents and surveying for registration at land titles. The options are to grant the extension or to refuse the extension, and it is recommended that a 1-year extension be granted to subdivision application 2019-0-011.
Thank you. Any questions in regards to this application? If not, could we have a motion? Clarence moves to approve. All in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. I'm just looking over, Maria, our planning folks, do you have anything else on this agenda?
It looks like you are done with us today, Madam Reeve.
I didn't mean it to sound that way. I was trying to make sure you didn't have to come back and put up with us again. But that's great. Thank you so much for your work, and we'll let you escape then. And I'm trying to see, as far as the RCMP delegations, I see Kendra, and I'm not sure if there's anybody in the council chamber. It doesn't look like it. Is there, Kevin? No?
Sebastian's here from Bassano.
Oh, hello, Sebastian, there you are, yes. Perfect. Well, I'm assuming that Bruce will be around somewhere also, and John for municipal reports. So seeing as Sebastian is here, why don't we let him go ahead. If you're ready, Sebastian, take the floor.
Yeah. All right, so good afternoon, I guess, to everyone. I'll be reporting on the second quarter progress, the document that I sent to you guys, I think, a couple weeks ago. That's July 1st to September 30th. So with COVID, we were still able to do 17 youth engagements. We're now slowly increasing our visits in the school, as well as giving information to young kids about mental health as well. And we're hoping in the next quarter to do a mental health presentation to some of the high schoolers, especially with COVID and what's going on lately. It may be helpful to them. Did 14 event participation that includes 2 online interactive education programs. We had the analyst from Rural Crime. It's our crime, I'm in a brain fart right now. Rural Crime Unit that's in Calgary that helps us quite a bit with rural crime, with the intelligence process, as well as warrants. That's how we ended up getting quite a bit of the copper theft crimes with them. Did a online interactive to let residents of all the County of Newell online about what they need to do to report, how there's no small call when it comes to suspicious persons, how to properly lock the property, and exactly what his unit does. I found that was helpful. A lot of people don't know how they're taking serious rural crime, so it does help give them an idea of what they do. We did a town hall online in Bassano, and we have one in Rosemary where we are just sending a questionnaire to all the residents, and they will be sending one us back in the next month or so, and then I'll be doing a live session based on their questions. We found with speaking with the residents there that it would be easier to do it that way as opposed to online. We had 10 impaired drivers that were charged. Noticed a huge increase in that, so we are starting to have more random checks. with COVID safety precautions in mind. We did 3 road safety presentations to most of our high schools. We're having issues with students, as per usual, speeding. So we had a road safety presentation warning them, as well as telling them the dangers of speeding in school zones. Had 17 motor vehicle collisions. We did 214 proactive rural crime patrols in Hussar, Bassano, Gem, and Rosemary's. Those are actually not counted as our normal patrols. Those are hotspot areas where we're having a lot of crime. We noticed that copper theft has really decreased, hopefully in large part due to our patrols, intelligence, as well as CERB may be a factor in that. But we have noticed an increase in break-and-enters in our Hussar region. Luckily, we're able to do DNA, and so currently we'll have some warrants out for the rest for some of the SOCs who broke into there. So we'll be concentrating on enters in our outlying in the county and Newell business areas with our intelligence process. High priority calls. We had quite a bit of sudden deaths. We had 5 month alone. We've had 3 as well in October. So our medical, we have some mental health ones as well. So we are seeing an increase in that. 3 MHA transports that don't know. Fortunately, our small communities, including Brooks, is not a designated facility for someone in a mental health crisis. So we're either having to drive them to Medicine Hat or Calgary. That requires us as police officers to have someone in a mental health crisis be driven sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours to the nearest facility. Hoping at some point maybe one of these hospitals in our bigger areas will be able to handle mental health patients. We are seeing an increase in calls for service for mental health. We had 7 charged late in major crimes. We had an increase in sexual assaults again last quarter. But we have charged quite a few people. Quarter, as I said before, our calls went down to it was only 200, and that was in large part, I think, because of the COVID restrictions. They have started to restrict. We have more people on the road, or we've had an increase in persons crimes. So we had 396 calls last quarter. So that's about more calls than we had last year. Copper theft, like I said, is really, it's almost at this point. So we're going to be changing a little bit of priorities to help more with some of our business break-and-enters in our outlying areas. But, we're working still on a plan of getting some more mental health options to some of our residents in rural areas, because in order for them to get counseling and stuff, having to go to Brooks, especially from Bassano, and someone in a mental health crisis, that could be very hard. A lot of time income is an issue, and so for some people, they think that drive may not cost them very much, but for some of these families, that's a very cost, especially if they have children. So we're hoping to work in the future of maybe trying to get them more options with them for maybe video counseling, because we deal with quite a few mental health that we don't actually transport. So we're looking at that hopefully for the next quarter. For that, we had a major accident yesterday on Highway 1. As you know, with the winter coming, we're going to unfortunately have more accidents. It was a rollover. Luckily, the person survived, but it was pretty bad, so they were quite lucky. Traffic was stopped for a couple hours and slowed down as well. But now we're prepared for these winter seasons with the slick roads, and we'll be doing advisories as they come. That's it for Bassano. Oh, sorry. I also would like to thank Kendra. She was quite helpful in helping us reach some of the Brooks residents as well with the mental health workshops, as well as she's given us quite a few of these safety tickets. And I actually have another stack of 70 on my desk here. We're giving out to some of the students in communities. And now I'm done. If there's any questions or concerns from some of the council. I think that's it. I think I'm having a hearing. I don't hear anyone. Is someone talking? There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Every now and then Todd wields his power, and I was muted and couldn't unlock. So Sebastian, yes, we can hear you. And there's some questions. Hands up, Anne-Marie.
Hi, Sebastian. I'm glad you're up straight now. I was starting to lean over to see because you were sideways. Yeah, it was funny. My question is about patrol with the boats, because Kendra mentions in her report that there's patrols on Lake Newell and Rolling Hill Reservoir, and they do go to Crawling Valley. So the question for you is, do you need a boat in Bassano to cut back on response time?
Well, I will say that having the Brooks has been really awesome by doing patrols for us with their boat. So that's been actually quite helpful. Now, for response time, as in if there was an accident or something, the only one else who has a boat as well wouldn't be our Bassano Fire Department. It would be the Brooks Fire Department. And who would be called for water rescues. Usually we have the fire departments get on the water for water rescues, and then we assist. So if anything, I think it would be beneficial to have maybe Bassano Fire Department to have a boat operational that we can use at the same time, because most of those search and rescues partnership with them. And for the actual patrols, we're still able to use Brooks quite a bit. I think they did 2 or 3 on our water, which was really well received by our residents at Crawling Valley.
Thanks.
Other questions for Sebastian? Wayne?
Sebastian and I have been hearing over the last couple of months there's protests about police brutality because they're not trained in mental health, and that they shouldn't be handling those mental health issues. Are you getting additional training? Because it seems to me they're piling an awful lot on you guys. And I'm just wondering if the training is adequate for for this meant, because you were saying that the mental health problems are increasing with COVID. And are you getting additional training for this?
We do have more online training courses. I think they're going to roll out with some more mental health courses once due to COVID, it's very hard to get classrooms together for mental health. I know when we first go to depot, we get a training on it, and then we could get continued training on it. Unfortunately, I agree, there's also more trained professionals to deal with it. The current time, Health Services won't transport health patients. They make us transport to a designated facility. I think it's because for their EMS, it's a danger to them is why. I don't want to speak the residents, but yes, we are dealing with it quite a bit. We're hoping to get some more training here in the next couple of months once COVID restricted, but obviously the more training would be the better in that category.
Other questions? This is a funny question. I tried to figure out the answer to it on my own, but I know what an SOB is. But what is an SOC?
Oh,
similar.
It's a suspect, basically, a subject of complaint. Well, if I were to make a complaint that my wife was doing something wrong, she would be the SOC. Not saying that's the truth, but I would be the complainant. Doesn't always mean a guilt, it's just who they're complaining about. Sorry about that. Sometimes I forget about using the terminology.
No, it caught my eye, of course, because you mentioned firearms. And there's one thing about break and enters, and then there's break and enters with firearms. A bit of a difference.
One of the females in the video actually was carrying an assault rifle. And luckily, not only were we able to get some DNA and video surveillance from it, but as well as our intelligence units partnership with Calgary, as well as CPS, is we were able actually to track that vehicle to the location because it was a stolen vehicle. It was it's a really good file. I'll be excited next month or two when we can actually release who we're charging.
Good job. Good job. Anything else for Sebastian? Tracy?
I was just wondering if you could pass along a really big thank you. Last week, one of your officers, Constance Yeha, I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but he attended a situation And he just handled it with such respect and dignity and compassion. And it was just wonderful to work with someone in that situation. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for letting him know. I definitely will pass it on.
Thank yous are always wonderful. Thanks, Tracy. Clarence.
You know, it kind of surprises me that when you say, well, it doesn't really surprise me that you say a lot of things that you're dealing with are mental health, but when you get calls or when you become aware that it's a mental health issue, is it because of other actions or the incident itself that you realize that this isn't normal or whatever the case is, or are people actually saying I've got a mental health issue and call the RCMP, or is it because of the incidents involved that you realize that's what it is?
So it's mostly we're getting complaints. So a lot of times we get like welfare checks, members of the public who are worried about mental health. And the only time that we actually have under the Mental Health Act, we have powers is when we believe there's an immediate risk to their health or someone else. So if, like, for instance, some people struggle with mental health, maybe someone is schizophrenic, you may have someone who notices they may be off their medicine or having issues. When we show up there, unless there's like immediate risk or threat, we're not transporting them. We're just trying to get them the help they need by maybe calling their doctor or something like that. But most of our calls are from other people calling. Now, we have had some calls where we've seen someone and talked to them and realize they're going through a crisis, and we're able to give them what we call a courtesy ride, because for them it's very hard to get to a designated facility. But almost all our calls are generated by the public or friends and family who are worried for their well-being. So a lot of them are well-being checks, and they usually give us information about how it goes. A lot of times it's that they're suicidal and wanting to hurt themselves, as opposed to, it's not just because you're dealing with a mental health disorder that we're always going to be taking you to a designated facility. It's when we feel there's immediate risk to your life or someone else's. They don't always have to be theirs. They could be because of their the crisis they're going through. They could be threatening their family member or someone around them. And at that point, we do bring them to a medical professional. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm reading you right. I mean, what I'm saying is if I think I have a mental health problem, it wouldn't have been my first call, wouldn't have been to the RCMP. It would have to be because there is something more serious happening, but that is the cause of it. But, that's kind of what I was at.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We don't have people calling us because like dealing with the mental health. When it's to the point, actually, I don't think I've really had anyone calling themselves. It's usually someone else. But agreed, yes, usually their first calls to the Alberta Health Services, their local doctors or a counselor. Unfortunately, we're usually there and their crisis moment, that either they weren't able to get the help they needed or they're going through something where they're going to hurt themselves or someone else. But no, we're not actually getting calls for someone who just needs help that isn't immediate. Really does happen. We do a lot of proactive stuff. Go to a file, something's going on, and we'll recommend them to victim services or someone who can actually get them some of the help and counseling they need. Because a lot of times it's hard to know where to reach out to get the help, especially in some of these small communities.
Thank you.
Anything else for Sebastian? Ellen?
Yes, Sebastian, I was just wondering, and I think you may have mentioned a little bit about it, but almost the double amount of calls since last quarter for service, did that have to do directly with the COVID situation? Did you say that? I was just curious about that, because it's a double.
Sorry. So the first quarter, we were actually lower number of calls compared to last year. And what I was saying is because during the first quarter, some of the restrictions were still quite in effect, we were getting a lot less calls for service. But once we noticed restrictions started relaxing, more people were on the road, more people are out and about, and maybe less afraid to call us maybe because of COVID stuff, we noticed an increase. For this quarter, we're about 40 calls more last year's quarter. Does that make more sense? Okay.
Anything else for Sebastian? Okay, I'll just see, is Bruce on the line yet?
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Bruce.
Hello, Your Worship and Council.
Welcome, Bruce. We'll go back to item 811, and that's you, Bruce. Are you still there? Can you guys out there hear Bruce? No.
He must have hit his exit button instead of his mic or something.
It happens. Give him a second. If not, John will have you on deck ready to rock and roll.
Not a problem.
If Bruce isn't able to rejoin, he knows that I'm upstairs, so he can also come join in off mine. So,
all right, John, go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Reeve and Council. I'm here to do my report for July to September. As per the Alberta traffic safety calendar, our department during these months focused on construction zones, distracted drivers, and back to school. Our department was issued 140 warnings and 60 tickets for this last quarter. Our department also assisted RCMP and fire in 2 incidents for traffic control, motor vehicle collisions, and fire. Our department also conducted joint operations with Fish and Wildlife and the conservation officers. During this quarter, our department investigated 150 files. Our department also participated and issued 5 Super Kids tickets for children wearing bike helmets. Our department is continuing to utilize the speed signs to help educate the motorists and to collect data when needed on traffic patterns related to speeding. Enclosed is my report providing further information on tickets versus warnings issued by our department for the county only and the case files investigated. And that's it. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer anything.
Juby.
John, I just want to say thanks for getting on the radio on the Friday mornings and giving your reports and giving some safety protocols to the people of the area. It's good to see you visible doing that. So I really thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Juby. I appreciate that.
Other questions? Ellen?
Just curious, what time are you on, John, on Friday mornings?
On Friday mornings? What time?
Yes.
Our shifts vary, but we can be on, we're on sometimes as well, early as 6:30 in the morning to start. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, John, how was the summer for things like sprinklers? See, there's a few in your reports.
Yes, yes. It was still, I would answer that by saying it was still ongoing. That we obviously from the stats show that we did still have calls for that. I am going to say I believe that overall that the numbers are still down when I compare it to, several years ago. When we first started getting into this, I think that education with the farmers is helping. And am I going to say that it'll stop completely? No. I know this is going to be something that's going to be ongoing for talking to people and educating them. But again, I believe that the farmers have been proactive in helping, lower this for the numbers. But it'll be an ongoing thing for sure.
Anything else for John? So That's good that education is working too.
Yes, we'll continue to do so.
Excellent. All right. We'll go back to Bruce or Kendra.
I don't think Bruce is on here.
Okay. Kendra, you have quite a long report. Maybe if you want to hit the highlights, perhaps.
Yeah, I was just going to say I won't take too much time going through the whole thing. Basically, like John mentioned, the Super Kids tickets were really successful over the summer, both in the city, in the Bassano and Brooks, and in the county. I'm glad that it got out there. I know that Sebastian and John and everyone that is all out throughout the county definitely makes my job move a lot better initiative-wise when they engage as much as they do. It's really awesome, even especially like both of them have been on the radio in the past month and they did unreal. I got lots of comments about how great they did and how important the messaging was. Sebastian was on for World Mental Health Day and John was on, like you know, for the rural road safety, and I know that people really appreciated that. We have had lots of engagements in and out of the city for safe communities. I know one of the ones that we're a little bit excited about is an upcoming, I know this is included at the back of my report, but myself, Corporal Argue, and Councillor Hubie Callan will be coming with us we're all going to go to the Bow Slope Cattle Auction on November 14th and be talking about safe communities and the Rural Crime Watch and stuff like that. That's something that I guess I can skip forward to is the Rural Crime Watch. We're still doing great. We still have people joining in, and we actually sent out an alert this morning using our alert system about a stolen bicycle that was stolen from within Brooks, but there is a chance that it is obviously out in the outer parts. So anyone in the county has now been informed they're part of the Rural Crime Watch. Moving forward, so yeah, our social media for safe communities has been doing really great. Still, we have over 1,000 people engaged on Facebook, and then throughout our other social media outlets, they do well, but Facebook is definitely the one where we engage with most people. So that is where we will be posting a lot of our like Halloween safety stuff like that. We will also be sending a video out to, and this I haven't even included on my report because we have just decided to go through with it because we think it's really important. We are going to be putting a video together with different officers at the Brooks Detachment for Halloween safety, and I was going to reach out to Sebastian this afternoon to see if they would like to be a part of it, but we are going to be basically posting that on social media and sending that out to schools because I know that there are some schools that are okay with the in-person presentations, but some of them, even in Brooks, have expressed a little bit of hesitation. So instead of, I guess, and this isn't exactly the way I want to say it, but like pushing it and kind of like when some people aren't exactly easy with it, we figured having a safety video with that information in it that they could play in the classrooms would be beneficial. So that we were going to go forward with that. Yeah, so the only other things that I wanted to mention was, I always say this in all of my reports, is I always remind people that the crime mapping service is still available. It's on the County of Newell and City of Brooks website, and if you just go to the maps portion of the website, you can look at the crime map. It is updated by myself every day. Some days they're like, especially like in Bassano, if nothing, I guess, happened that can be reported on the crime map, there might not be anything for that day, but it's kind of nice to be able to just check in on it on your street or where you work or anything like that to be able to know if anything has been going on there. I try and encourage people to use it just because I always hear people say like, oh, I wish I knew what was going on. Like, why don't the RCMP share it with us? It's like, we actually do. But other than that, the other things that I wanted to mention were, obviously you guys saw in the report, the boating safety. I know that Rob especially is really excited about how well that went because he was on the boat a lot this summer going, and he was very adamant about education before like enforcement and I guess basically giving out tickets. He was very, very good about stopping people and just having conversations with them and not, I guess, acting the way that most people would think an officer would act. Is basically, he was still stern and an authority figure, but he was very friendly and he was very good to engage with the community. And I know that even when I was there for like safety materials, people would say, "Oh, I saw the boat out yesterday, and he made sure we had all of our equipment and our life jackets." And they spoke about the interactions very positively. So I'm really happy that Corporal Harms took as much of a leadership role as he did with the boating safety stuff, because I know that he definitely made his rounds around where he could. Other than that, I know that I've included on my report, the last thing is that we have some upcoming events. I mentioned Bowslope. We have a couple presentations for Canada Post and BCIS regarding different kinds of like driving safety. And for Canada Post specifically, we're going to be doing a little bit more specified safety stuff for their mail carriers, for their rural mail carriers. Only other thing is this is pending considering the weather, but we are hoping to have a little bit of a Halloween community engagement thing here in Brooks. With all of our first responders, we're going to have an ambulance and a fire truck and a police car come out at the JBS Canada Centre, and we're sending that messaging out to everyone in the city and county, because I know that there are some people that are a little bit hesitant about going door to door trick-or-treating this year, but they still don't want to just like keep their kids at home on Halloween. So pending the weather and pending how all that turns out, we are all planning to be out there at JBS starting advertising tomorrow for that event. And basically we're going to be controlling the flow of traffic and following COVID guidelines, but allowing kids to have at least one place to go and wear their costume, take pictures with some first responders, and get a nice prepackaged bag of candy and all that kind of stuff. So I thought that was kind of great. And then the other thing for Halloween is that starting this afternoon, we're going to have a pumpkin carving contest via social media that everyone in the city and the county can participate in. Basically, you just make something, have it submitted, send us a photo sometime before the Friday, October 30th. And we're going to have a big prize basket to give to who everyone votes as winner. So we're just trying to still get everyone engaged in every way we can, even though we can't do as many in-person things. Like I know that we usually drive around and give out candy on Halloween, but since that might not be the best idea, we're still trying to reach out in every way we can and get that engagement. But yeah, that is about the gist for my report, unless anyone has any other questions.
Questions? The boat stats were interesting, a great program. Question about when you go to places like Bowslope, you just set up a booth, or how's the engagement?
Yeah, basically we bring some materials and basically set up a little table when you first walk in the door and have it so that when people walk by, they can go grab it, or maybe they aren't feeling the chattiest mood, so they just kind of grab the information and go. But basically, the three of us, Kiwi did a really great job of showing me and Josh where to go. But we go and we just basically go walk around, sit with people, go talk with people, engage, and I guess bring forward that information if they're curious about that. And I think some people also just appreciate the chance to just chat with an RCMP officer, maybe ask a question or anything like that. Honestly, the main thing, let's say it's not, I think every engagement is successful, but it's not the most successful, and people aren't really don't have that many questions, or maybe aren't interested in the information that time. I know that we still get comments about people appreciating the presence and showing that they're still showing up to those kind of community events and stuff like that. But for the most part, I've never really noticed the events to just be that. There's always questions, there's always conversations being had, and new information being given to people, and information being given to us about what the community is noticing, which I really appreciate, because I'm able to do something with that and kind of roll out either whether it's initiative or education or awareness or anything like that. I definitely really value the input from the community that we get from those engagements. So yeah, it kind of varies with what we get to do there.
Thank you. Community engagement is huge, and I know in some of the conversations or Zoom meetings and things that I've been involved in the last few months, often there is complaints about that with the RCMP, and I have to say, from my perspective, from a County of Newell perspective, we have not had anything but great engagement for years by our Bassano and Brooks detachments, and it just gets better and better. So thanks, Ken, you do that ties that together. And Sebastian and Bruce, is he back with us, or?
I got kicked out by the program. I'm back now. I'm not sure where I left off, but
you hadn't even got started, so just take it away.
Great. Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap this up really quick. Quickly on the mental health piece, I wanted to kind of tie into that. So really quickly, Sebastian did a great job explaining that, you know what, when the police are involved, that's when the crisis is hit. And we're called in. Usually it's to those calls of suicide, possibly someone with a weapon, and it's hit a crisis point. What we've done, we've partnered with AHS and Community Mental Health. We've had a couple of meetings with them now. I've sent a letter of intent to partner with them. So what you've seen in the larger communities, you see these crisis intervention teams, or PAC teams they call them, where mental health professionals are embedded with the police. They don't have the capacity for that here, and we don't. But the goal of the partnership is to get to these people in the community before it becomes a crisis. And you can't always identify individuals that way, because some people just some people don't ever have any mental health problems, but that one day they have a crisis. So, but usually, for the most part, we deal with people repetitively that have ongoing mental health issues, and the goal there is to get them the proper medical help they need before it becomes a police intervention. So that's where that's going here. Quickly over my stats. So you got sent the pretty little graphic from the OSB branch, 24% decrease in rural crime around Brooks. So I'm just gonna, that's pretty, but I want to talk about specific statistics. I see, just like Sebastian mentioned, property crime is down, theft is down, break and enters are down. They're trending downwards. That's really great. I'm glad to see that. We too have not seen any significant oil field or copper wire thefts this last quarter. So I think that between the proactive patrols, the police and the community, certainly Medicine Hat Alert and the rural crime team has also been a part of that. So that's great. The one statistic that I did notice is trending up, and it's kind of not surprising, is spousal abuse. So we had, at this time last year, we had 44 files flagged as spousal abuse. This year we have 62. So as a percentage, that's a 41% increase. Is everybody still with me? Okay, so so that's trending upwards, and that's not surprising, because that we've seen with COVID and all the restrictions and people being kept in their homes. We saw that trending in other areas, and now we're seeing it trending here. So do I want to say that's attributable? Is it attributable to COVID merely? I don't know, but certainly it's a statistic we're keeping an eye on. And our domestic violence team at the office is keeping an eye on that as well. I want to speak to community engagement. Sebastian and Kendra do a really great job at this. Kendra carries a lot of the load on that for Brooks Detachment, and Kendra is doing a really, really great job on the safe community side of the house. Particularly what I want to point out is our online presence and social media, which I'll be the first to tell you I suck at, because I'm not engaged into those things as much as I probably should these days, but I'm getting older and I'm not able to keep up with that. Kendra does a fantastic job with that. She knows the platforms. She knows how to get the message out. She engages people all the time with that. So huge shout out to her for carrying that piece for us. And it's really, really great the work she does. So that's what I've got for you this quarter. Is there any questions, Your Worship?
Thank you. Wayne Hammergan has a question.
As far as spousal abuse, how many of those are actually repeats?
I couldn't give you a hard and fast number, but I would say, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say it's low. I'm going to say probably about a quarter of our DV clients are repeat offenders. Domestic violence scoring and how we define domestic violence has really broadened over the last few years. So, I mean, a domestic violence file can be anything from, you had an argument with your wife and the police got called, the neighbors heard you yelling and called the police, and it was just an argument. I mean, couples argue, or right up to someone's been assaulted. So all of those things are covered under domestic violence. We do have repeat instances where we go to houses repetitively, but it's not that high, to be quite frank with you. And again, that kind of also ties into how we deal with mental health. The reason why we've broadened our definition of domestic violence and our intervention is because, and that's the whole point of our domestic violence intervention team, is it was realized a long time ago the court system and law enforcement can't solve domestic violence. Domestic violence is a multi-pronged approach. So and a lot of times domestic violence does tie in with mental health issues, ties in with economic issues, substance abuse issues. So we try to tackle those things from all of those facets of what's the problem in this person's domestic relationship and what's the appropriate way to deal with it. And it's not always laying that charge or having the court system deal with it. But certainly there is the odd group of people who, for whatever reason, feel the need to stay together in domestic violence relationships. And that's usually when you'll see those people returning to court again and again and again.
So, Bruce, with domestic violence, the divot work, because of COVID, would be not at all able to happen, the coming together of everyone. And the school system being out of the circuit for a while, such a worry, I think, because of kids not always having good people in their life to talk to. But that whole intervention team wouldn't have been at play, correct?
So how we tackled that, and you're right, Your Worship, how we tackled that was we really had to engage our victim services unit, and a lot of things were done over the phone. But certainly if there was a need to go out and visit a family, if there was a need to go visit a household, you know what, we mask up and we wear our PPE, we social distance. We certainly weren't deterred to go out to a residence and deal with the people if we needed to. You know, this whole COVID thing has been such a perplexing issue for everyone, but especially for law enforcement, because we still have to maintain a service to our clients, and we still have to maintain public safety. So unfortunately, that means that we have to sometimes take those risks, suit up and go out and deal with things. So like I say, I mean, even see us today, we're sitting here on life size talking to each other through a camera screen. We've just had to really innovate the way we do things to ensure our service delivery. But certainly if we need to go out to a house, we're still going.
Excellent. Any other questions for Bruce?
I just want to, I don't know if I touched on it. I think I started talking about it before I got cut out. The water rescue piece was very successful this year. I think Kendra talked a lot about it, and Sebastian. Getting the boat in Brooks was great. We were able to get out to all of the kind of bodies of water and do patrols. Significantly this year, there was a lot of drownings in Alberta, but not one in our area. We usually have one a year. We didn't have any this year. And I want to say that's because we had Rob and Kendra and everybody out there selling our message of boating safety and police and people seeing the police on the water. So I'm hoping that's what it was, and I'm hoping we can carry that on for the next few seasons.
Excellent. Any other questions? Thank you, Sebastian, Kendra, John, and Bruce for being here today with us and giving those reports. Winter is upon us by the looks of things, so have fun with that.
Thank you, Council.
Bye-bye. All right, Council, we'll go back to Todd. Would you like to give your Ag Service Board update? Does that work for you?
Yes, absolutely. Nothing would make me happier.
Then, other than me looking after my own mute button?
I find it entertaining, all the different ones that we've done now. It always seems to be somebody different that makes it echoey. And today it just happens to be you, which is very hard because you have to talk so much. So anyways, I do apologize for missing you earlier. I kind of caught it after. But long story short, just a quick update. I missed you guys last month. But we did almost finished up roadside seeding before winter really hit us. Probably pushed it a little bit hard. The ground was getting a little bit hard in the mornings. It tended to break up a little bit better closer to noon when the guys started putting the seed down. So that was a benefit. But we ended up just about finishing, but not quite. A few roads got added last minute that were done construction that we weren't really anticipating. So just by the time we got the seed, we didn't quite finish, but we definitely will get to that next spring, so no big deal. Seed cleaning plants are coming up, so we do go out and inspect for sure 3 seed cleaning plants this year and possibility of 4 if everybody's operating. Catherine does that, and she has a good relationship with those guys. With winter hit now, all the sprayers been put to bed. We did some late spraying of some thistles. So we actually had to unwinterize to do a little bit of work and then re-winterize, but that's okay. It's nice to see dead weeds. So probably most of our work in the next couple, 3 months is shop work. The list is long. We had quite a few things that this year being so busy, we always joke, we hold them together with haywire and baler twine. And now it's just time to get them back into good shape. We definitely are doing some preventative maintenance tasks at all the fire halls and our county facilities. If you guys were here today, you would see all of the filters being changed and that kind of thing. I know Joe was out in Patricia this morning. The heater didn't work out there. So as things get cold, we got lots of things on the go. I'm happy to let you guys know we finally got the paperwork back on our 5-year ASB grant. So we did get that commitment from the province, as well as our CAP grants. We got the paperwork back on that. So the CAP grants were new to us this year. We don't typically have to apply for them, but with the reduction in our ASB grant, we thought it would be prudent to do so. So we put in a CAP grant for our weed control on the Bow River, as well as some weed inspection on the EID infrastructure. And we put another grant in for fusarium head blight surveys, as well as club root surveys. So we did get those finalized, and our first reporting deadline is right around the corner. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is we did have our strychnine orders out. I think really good reception so far. And to be honest, we've been happy with the numbers that are coming back. Guys, I think, are really thinking about how much they're going to use and need and not stockpiling. We were anticipating probably ordering around 300 cases, but to date, we only have about 135 on order. And just kind of looking at the numbers from the different producers, it looks on par for what they're going to use in the next few seasons. So quite happy with how that's going, I think. I did reach out to the company that produces the strychnine, and they haven't gotten back to me, but we'll get our order in the next few weeks, and hopefully we can have it ready for next spring. And that's about all I had to say about that.
November 1st, Todd, for that deadline?
Yeah, the first week of November, I think, is going to be best, just to give the company enough time to get it to us by hopefully February.
Any questions for Todd?
Easy peasy.
Looks like it's easy peasy today, yes. All right. Oh, Hubie.
How many baby hawks did we get this year?
Babies, I could not tell you. I did. I sold my my pole climbing spurs, so I didn't get up and check any of the nests. Next year.
New sport for you.
Yeah.
We'll sell tickets next year for that.
You probably have to.
Brian?
Todd, with this snow, do you do your coyote survey right away, or do you wait till later on in the season?
Ideally, we want to have, and it doesn't always work out, and sometimes we work weekends if we have to, but ideally it would snow or we put the scent baits out on the day it's going to snow, and then we count the next 4 days. So I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we have enough snow to properly monitor it. And it's tricky because typically we try to do our survey in January. That's when we tend to have the most longevity in our snow. So this time of year we end up, we can put out our scent traps or scent baits, and then the snow could go away pretty fast. So we tend to wait until January when we know it's going to stick around a little bit, but before February when they're breeding, because that just makes it a disaster for counting. They're not paying as much attention to food during their breeding season, I guess is maybe a good way to put it. So we have done it in all months of the winter, and we find that January is when we get our best results. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Anything else for Todd? Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
All right, on our agenda, maybe we'll do a bit of jumping around now because there are some items that might take longer than the time left. So we'll go down to item 10.6, which is joint meeting request, Grasslands School Division. 10.6.
Yeah, so Madam Reeve, they have requested some meeting dates from council to get together. I assume obviously it's going to be Zoom. If there's too many numbers, they're going to try to accommodate in-person meeting if possible. So just they're asking for some dates from council that they can propose to the other municipalities as well.
So sometimes when we've met with them, it's been after one of our council meetings or one of their meetings, or so they're talking about meetings just with us or with those other communities at the same time. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think they want to have one meeting with everybody. And
okay.
Hopefully the numbers work out. I think they'd like to do it in person, but it all depends on numbers and what kind of a room they can accommodate.
Okay. And so if you want to look at your November calendars, folks, Anne-Marie?
The topics, Kevin, is it mostly to give us an update on school numbers and construction in Tilly and just kind of the basic stuff?
Yeah, typically they'll ask for agenda items when the meeting is set. So I think we could obviously talk about that as well. If you want to pick some topics that we can give the division.
Right, so they did not give you any specific topics that they want to talk to us about?
No, just trying to find a date at this point.
Suggestions? I guess if it's a Zoom meeting, it's different than trying to do it after another meeting. Doesn't really make a difference, but how about, well, the first week in November, we're tied up on the 3rd and the 4th, right? That's RMA throughout the day. And then council is Thursday. And so maybe we'll move to the week of the 9th. Give them some dates in there. Monday the 9th. Does that work? Pencil in that one. I guess the 10th. I don't know what they'll be doing for Remembrance Day in the middle of that week with school, but maybe we should look at the next week for a couple of other dates. 16th, 17th, 18th, any of those? So that would be the 9th, the 10th, the 16th, 17th, 18th. Should we go 23rd, 24th, 25th as well? Then they've got lots to choose from. I'm seeing heads nodding. So that would be a selection of dates, certainly, that would work. Good enough, Kevin?
So the 10th you're suggesting, that might be joint services?
Right. These were, yeah, I don't know what time of day. So I guess we'll ignore the 10th then. And the 11th is a holiday, and so I'm not sure about the 12th, 13th. So I just thought, so we'll take the 10th off and then go 16, 17, 18, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th.
That should work.
25th is new regional services, so that's 4 to 6.
Okay, so maybe keep that one off. 26th instead, 23rd, 24th, 26th.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and then on to item 10.7 for registration. Ariana?
Yes, so online event only this year, no hotels, just your internet. Let me know if you want to register. And I don't have any updates on the meetings with the ministers, so I did cancel the one with the Minister of Environment as per last meeting. Still a phone conversation with the Minister of Transportation and no word yet from Minister of Municipal Affairs.
Sorry, I was muted. Clarence, my question was, is there anyone who Ariana should not register for RMA? It's all online. I'm seeing no one that won't be able to attend. So I would think everybody should be able to be registered, Ariana. Okay.
Molly, my point was still that we have farm investments on there for the Minister of Municipal Affairs. Want to touch it? I don't want to give him a reason to say that County of Newell says we should be doing something different. So I would, unless somebody is really wants to talk about it, I'm not going to touch it.
Well, I think later, maybe an item under 10.9, we can have a little chat about how it's going to affect us and the assessment as far as the linear goes, so we can talk more about it. But the conversation with the Minister of Municipal Affairs, what was on that agenda, Ariana, besides
Just funding issues.
Funding issues?
It's pretty general, I guess, if you include whatever you want.
Okay, Wayne?
I think we were also going to talk about farm assessment, farmland assessment.
So that's what Clarence's point is. He thinks we should leave that alone.
Well, I don't think we should leave farmland assessment. Leave maybe the oil field assessment alone, but This has been something that's been bugging me for 8 years, so.
Well, I think they're quite aware of it. Do we need to remind them, I guess, or talk to them about it? I'm sure that all assessment will be considered going forward. If they're taking time to deal with linear and oil and gas and those facilities, I would assume that everything might be having a look. But how do the rest of you feel? I mean, you want this minister meeting with the minister and to talk about those sorts of things? I don't know. Brian?
I would prefer not to be on the agenda. I think you're opening a can of worms that it's going to be opened at some point in time anyways, and I think we leave it alone. That's my thoughts. I would, if there was a meeting on it, I would not speak to it.
No, and to me, the can of worms is open. And it's a can that is up to the province to deal with. They tried with linear to do what they did and made a mess of it. They need to come up with some legitimate, appropriate, transparent processes to look at assessment. And if they don't, they should not need a reminder, in my opinion. So I'm quite the same as Clarence and Brian. I'm not going to be talking about it. Wayne, don't know how you feel about that, but I think there's enough publicity out there. What do you figure, Wayne?
The trouble is, nobody, because we are rural, no councillors want to touch this one because they're going to get some backlash. But the truth is, farms aren't the little farm family farms anymore. We're talking corporations, and trouble is, we've got small businesses in every county in rural Alberta has small businesses which are being taxed appropriately, but farms aren't. And I know nobody wants to bring this up, but just remind the government that fair should be fair to everybody.
And certainly there are ways of doing that, I think, without a meeting. Brian?
Well, let me respond to you, Wayne, and I don't want to get into a debate about this, but we set the level of taxes. So if we're not collecting enough taxes from farmland, that's our problem. It's not the province's problem to set the assessment so that we have an excuse to collect more. We have that ability now. We can set the mill rate on farmland. We can do it anytime. And we have opted to try to recover what I think our objective as a council, as the County of New Council, is to try to work towards a cost recovery on the ag part of it. And we're not there yet, but we're getting there. So I guess the fear that I have, Wayne, is when you start talking about assessment to the level of the market value that you are, and you are quite correct about the market value not being anywhere close to what the market value, what the assessed value is today as opposed to the market value rate. Are you not a little bit concerned that the province is going to look at that, or our urban partners or urban municipalities are going to look at that and say, wow, look at that assessment that sits in the county of Newell or in the county or in the rural Alberta. How come we can't tap into that? It belongs to all Albertans. We've heard that before when it comes to the oil and gas part of it. What makes you think that it'll be any different argument when it comes to our urban or our farm producers? So that's my fear, that's the can of worms that you're going to open, and there's probably other ones that other people have thought out that I haven't, but that's the one that I'm concerned about when you look on the books and the value of the assessment for municipal or rural Alberta. If it went to market value, there's a value there that I think the rest of our municipal partners, our urban partners, are going to look at and say, wow, we should get a piece of that. So.
He's wiping us off the slate, giving up on us.
I'm obviously not going to win this argument, but here's the problem with me. This land assessment is not up. It's like 27 years out of date, and we're not allowed to tax farm buildings and equipment. And some of these farmers have multi-million-dollar buildings and stuff sitting there that we are not allowed to tax. Whereas if a little guy sits up on a corner with a welding shop, we can tax the hell out of him, and it's not fair.
Well, I do believe the government will discover that if they don't already know it. I think they know it. I mean, the way this government is going, if they have any rural people left to even talk to them, the way they're going will be interesting. So we can continue the discussion, but it doesn't have to be a meeting right now. Obviously, to meet with the Minister of Municipal Affairs is no longer a complicated thing because it's going to be a Zoom meeting. So we can work on a meeting into this following year. And I believe that the government, if they're really going to, as I said, be honest about the provincial assessment issues, they need to take a good look at it, all of it, Wayne. So I think that will be considered. Just my belief. But anyhow, let's take a break for lunch till 1 o'clock, I think. You guys, is that what you want? Yeah. And we'll come back for item 10.2 then, or item 10.3. Item 10.3. Thank you.